Peace and love, family. Before we get started with tonight's discussion, I do have a few announcements to make. On November the 7th, family, in Baltimore, Maryland, Baba Anthony T. Browder has organized a 40-day Ascension celebration for Nana, Dr. Patricia Newton. Now, due to COVID, and let me put it here. I'm sorry, guys. There we go. Well, let me take it back here. Due to COVID-19, this is going to be an invitation only event. Okay, it's by invitation only. However, the event will be live streamed. I repeat, the event will be live streamed. So on November the 7th, from 1 p.m. to 4 p.m., Baba Anthony T. Browder will be he has organized a 40-day Ascension celebration for Nana Dr. Patricia Newton. Okay. And again, guys, this is by invitation only. Okay. So if you feel like you should have gotten an invitation and you didn't, be sure to inbox Anthony T. Browder on Facebook and say, hey, look, Baba, I really want to come to the 40-day Ascension celebration. And this is because of COVID-19, family. And so let me read exactly what he's saying right here. It says, the friends of Dr. Patricia Newton invite you to commemorate her ascension into ancestorhood and the celebration of life well lived. It says that due to the prevalence of the COVID virus and the unpredictability of the pandemic, and I know if you're in Baltimore, you've already heard that Governor Hogan has signed an order to shut things down again. But he says that due to the prevalence of the COVID virus and the unpredictability of the pandemic, we are operating out of an abundance of caution and must practice social distancing throughout the program. Therefore, this is an invitation-only event, and the location has been provided only to invitees. Please RSVP by securing your Evite ticket by noon, November the 1st. Masks are required for all in attendance. We will live stream the program for those who are unable to attend. Live stream details will be posted on IKG's website and Facebook page by November the 1st, family. So go on over to IKG's, their website, and also their Facebook page to get details regarding the live streaming of Dr. Newton's 40-day Ascension celebration. All right, guys, so let's get started, family. Peace and Black power.
Let's combat and fight back with maltracks. The war of the minds, they want control of the masses. And Common Core, they dumb us down in the classes. Without knowledge, we can't gain access. Build with the elders, take notes and write classes. We keep whining on the block, how it's gonna stop? Let's start supporting our own, make their supply drop. We buy stocks, then we buy blocks. Cause we know the truth and we tuned in to Dr. Maya.
Peace and love, family. Welcome to another Truth to Power Talk with your sister, Dr. Ma'at. Thank you for joining another powerful discussion. And tonight I have with me another powerful guest, but he is no stranger to this platform, nor is he a stranger to the community. Baba Mwalimu Baruti. Baba, how are you doing tonight, sir?
I'm doing good, my sister, Dr. Ma'at, and I appreciate being able to be back. It's good to see you again.
It's good to see you too, Baba. I appreciate you as always. I appreciate the work that you have been doing in the community for up to 10 years. I mean, you've been doing this for decades. And so I appreciate you. And I know you're a very busy man. Your wife, she's very busy. And so I give thanks for you taking time out of your busy schedule to be with us tonight. So thank you so much, Baba.
And we appreciate being invited. And I say, we, of course, it's never one of us, but I appreciate being invited, and I always enjoy myself on your show.
Appreciate
it. Warriors.
Appreciate it, Baba. Family, right now, take a moment out to thumb up this video. If you haven't thumbed up the video already, and I know that some people thumbed up this video before we even went live, take a moment out, thumb up this video. Also, family, share this video tonight. Baba is going to be dropping a lot of powerful information, and we want to get this information out. And a matter of fact, what I'm going to do, and sometimes Baba Facebook allows me to, they allow me to start a watch party, and sometimes they don't. It just all depends, Bobby. You know how it is with these platforms.
Absolutely.
Yes. So I'm going to try to start a watch party right now in the Dr. John Henry Clark, Dr. John Henry Clark Facebook group. But family, start a watch party, share the video out. Let's get people into the live stream. Let's get them on the live stream. Let's get the likes up. Let's get the views up, because YouTube works on algorithms. Okay, so the more people who interact with the video, the more that it'll be put into, I guess, the what do you call them, Bob? Your feed. There you go. Your feed. Your feed. All right, family. Also, make sure if you haven't subscribed to my channel, be sure to head on over to YouTube. If you're watching on Facebook, go to YouTube, type in Dr. Oya Ma'at, subscribe to my channel, hit the notification bell so that as soon as I go live, you will be notified. Also, family, I put together a playlist of all of the Truth to Power talks, okay, on this platform. Take a moment out, family, to comb through those discussions. I brought on Baba Baruti, Mama Baruti, Professor James Small, Dr. Kaba Kamene. I brought on Dr. Julius Garvey. I brought on Dr. Rick Kittles. Okay, I mean, some powerful discussion here, family. So please make sure that you take a moment out to comb through those playlists. All right, so at this time, family, I'm going to read Baba Baruti's bio. Mwalimu Bomani Baruti is the co-founder and co-director of Afrikan Institute, a full-time independent African-centered homeschooling program which just celebrated its 21st year of service to our community. He has written and self-published 25 books addressing issues ranging from manhood to chess to the middle passage to relationships. And in fact, Baba, I know that you were just posting about your Kabuku. I want to say, is it Kabuka? Yes,
Kabuka.
Yes. That's a beautiful book to get, family, on the middle passage. And you can go to akabenhouse.com to purchase that book. All right. He is a former faculty at Chicago State University and Morehouse College. He has been married to Mama Ya Mawusu Baruti for 35 years. And they have one daughter, Alea, who lives with her husband and 6 children. Again, thank you so much, Baba, for being with us tonight. So, Baba, I reached out to you. And I remember when I was a kid, and I grew up, family, in a Christian household, you know, as most of us have. And my mother, and everyone knows who's been listening to me, they know my mom is an ordained minister, still is an ordained minister. And we have, so you can imagine, Baba, the types of conversations that we have in our household. But I love that she's open to hear, you know, what my perspective is on spirituality, culture, and etc. But when I was a kid, Baba, I remember vividly on our kitchen wall, my mother had a Bible verse up. And that Bible verse, and I don't know which chapter or which verse it was, but I remember the verse because you look at it all the time as a kid. It said, "Choose this day whom ye will serve, but for me and my house, we will serve the Lord." And that always stuck with me. Choose this day whom we will serve, whom you will serve, but as for me and my house, we will serve the Lord. And I looked at it, like I said, it was posted on our kitchen wall. And so I looked at it, Baba, for many years, you know, up until I was an adult. And so, Baba, when I started thinking about just observing what's going on in our communities, I said, wow, you know, so in essence, the verse was saying you can't serve 2 masters, right? You got to choose one. And so when I started looking around in the community and, you know, the African-centered community, the conscious community, the woke community, the way, whatever you want to, however you want to qualify the community. I said, I see people have 1 foot in and 1 foot out. And so it reminded me of that Bible verse. You know, you have people who are living contradictory lives. You know, we have 1 foot in, we say we want African, you know, liberation, we want African sovereignty, but then we move differently. We move totally we move totally, I guess, contradictory to what we really want. So we say we want African liberation and African sovereignty, but we do a number of things, Baba, that are contradictory to achieving African liberation and African sovereignty. And I've even had conversations with the younger generation, my sons. I said, you have to choose. You know, it's like you like the Euro culture, and then but you got your foot in the African Senate culture. And I told him, I get it. I know you guys are young and trying to figure it out right now, just as I had to do, because I was in the world big time, Baba. You know, and so I understand they're at those ages where they're trying to figure out what their identity, you know, is. But it made me think we have to choose, Baba. You know, we got one foot in and one foot out. And so I said, I need to reach out to Baba Baruti to talk about what I have been observing, you know, in the community, you know. And so that's why I titled this show, Drawing a Line in the Sand. Drawing a line in the sand. Do we want liberation, or do we want continued oppression? And continued oppression is just living under European domination, really, you know, and just continuing to practice European culture and then perpetuating that. That's continued oppression. So we're at a point, Baba. I mean, we're at war. And people look at me crazy when I say that we're at war. We're at war right now, you know? And so we have to choose, especially the warriors who are on the front line. You need to choose. What do you really want? And we have to act accordingly. So that's why I reached out to you, Baba, to speak on this. And when I talked to Mama Ya, she said, "Ooh, this is right up his alley." You know, this is right up his alley. So, Baba, what are your thoughts on that? You know, what are your thoughts about where we are, how we're moving, and the contradictory behavior that you've witnessed over the years?
Well, we're in trouble, and I'm glad that you invited me on here to talk about this, because this is really I think a thinking discussion, because I don't think that most people realize that they're contradictory. We live in a society that, of course, is trying to remove us from existence, but we're living in a society within a culture that is, and there are multiple ways to look at it, but one of the ways is what I'm talking about right now. We live in a society or culture that wants to dominate the world, and it sees us as things that need to be controlled. It sees us as slaves. It sees us as food. And if you are an oppressively dominant group, as Urugu is, then, and you are the minority on the planet, and the majority of people, and you recognize the power of the majority of the people, you recognize the power of African people. It's not as simple as it just be another people. No, they have great fear of us, which is evident in terms of their historical approach to us. But if you recognize that, but you need to consume that power. You need to have that power become part of you, as well as find ways to distract and misdirect the people within there who may wake up, or who may be going through the process of waking up. Then you have to give your society the illusion or the image of being one that is open to all kinds of different ideas, and everything gets blended together, and everybody can bring theirs in, and that all of this is ours. This isn't just theirs. They're not the power broker. We have to realize, you know, power is a function of or is indicated by the number of choices that you have. That's something I think a lot of people don't think about. They misdefine it. If you don't have the ability to choose, then you don't have any power. I don't care how much money you have or anything else. If you don't have the ability to keep people from doing things to you, if you don't have the ability to make things get done, as Wade Nobles will say, or to make things not happen, then you don't have power. Okay, power is a function of, it's indicated by choice. It really is a function of choice. So we don't have that choice, but we're operating in a system that is very much afraid of us and needs to have us believe that everybody, whatever you do is cool because you are an individual, and all of this can fit together and work. But all of that discussion is taken out of the political context of people who are aspiring, or beings, or a nation that's aspiring to white supremacy. See, as long as we're having these discussions about, not in terms of what we're talking about now, because this is important, as long as we're spending all our time trying to create something new, or blending this that's African with this European, and blah, 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 and all the rest of that, then we're not going to be able to see the depth of the oppression. We're not going to be able to see how we're being used, how we're being domesticated, if you will, so that they maintain their control in the situation. There are, you can talk about this for hours. There are terms that are avoided at all costs, or misdefined, so that our minds don't move in the direction of empowerment. So we don't talk about the word sovereignty. We don't talk about the concept of being at war.
No.
I remember talking to a relative and using the word enemy to describe Europeans, and this individual visibly cringed at the thought of this possibility, because that's not something we can't think in those terms. Menticide is deep.
Yes, it is.
Extremely strong. Fear is probably one of the ugliest things that people live in. And people who are afraid, intergenerationally afraid, because it hasn't stopped, it hasn't slowed down. It just, there's so many things. It's like with the movies that we're seeing now, all these Black movies, they know that we're angry again.
That's right.
So now they've gotten into control of the imagery so that our anger will be misdirected away from them. It'll be directed toward us, it'll be directed toward anything else. So you bring in, you get ahead of the game, and you bring the imagery and you control, even if those who look like them are the ones who are creating these movies, these videos, et cetera, the mind, the mental mind within these individuals leads them to create an image of friendliness with Europeans, or saviorness, or that Messiah complex with Europeans. So we don't see them in one of those other words that we don't dare use because of the way it make us think it's enemies. We can't see that, because if you use the word enemy, or you use the word sovereignty, or if you use the word white supremacy in the wrong way, because we really shouldn't be saying white supremacy, as Kamal Cambone said many years ago. They're aspiring to white supremacy. They're not white supremacy. The power of the spoken word, when we affirm that, makes it real. So I don't say white supremacists anymore. I said those who are aspiring to white supremacy, because they're not supreme, and spirit reads words, I would argue, in a particular way. But we don't want to make the choice. We don't want to recognize that we are being destroyed. We spend so much energy trying to explain this or that incident as if it was just, the result of some racist European not understanding that this is a racist nation. In terms of them being a people, when I say nation, I'm not just talking about America, I'm talking about Europeans.
That's right.
So when we're constantly trying to find excuses for their behavior. We're constantly trying to find ways to make this seem like this is sanity. And it's not for African people. I tell folks all the time, if you really want to judge this in terms of who we are, and we're supposed to judge this in terms of who we are, in terms of the wisdom of the ancestors that we brag so much about, but then do everything opposite of
what they taught us.
Yes. If you really want to understand just how twisted this is, then read the oracles of Ma'at. And every single solitary one of them has been flipped on its head, and the opposite is being glorified in Western society. And we're walking around like this is just human. This is, we have progressed. We have progressed to a point where we're now superior to our ancestors. We're better than that. We're not limited. A lot of the efforts went in the quote unquote conscious community that you're talking about is the infusion of European insanity into the African way, so that what is European can be made into that which is African, and we lose sight completely of who we are. One of the perfect examples of that for me is how we have adopted a practice where your word is not your bond, where you can pretend to be something, and for those who you can fool enough, which is pretty much everybody around you, become that.
Yes.
You actually become that, and that's not our way. I just posted something today online about we are people of evidence. You can say all you want to, you're a warrior. Until that's proven on the battlefield, you can say all you want to that you're a mother, or you're a father, or you're an elder. That's a communal designation. The community decides if you are. You don't step out. In fact, when I was growing up, like you're talking about when you were growing up, when I was growing up, if somebody was walking around talking about I'm a man, then you were wondering if they were a man. Because being a man was not something that you had to tell anybody about. It was evident through what you did, and the community understood you as a man or a mouse.
Hold up, Baba.
It wasn't something that came out of your mouth.
Hold up, Baba. I gotta give this to you. You said so much. Hold on, Baba.
Yes.
Please continue, Baba.
I mean, I think it's very important that warriors draw that line. They decide whether they want to be sub-integrationist or they want to be sovereignist. And I think I told this little story when I was on here before. We had to be crystal clear. And most of us are not crystal clear. We don't have a problem with the contradiction. Okay, this is a culture of contradiction where if you're not contradictory, then something's wrong with you. Okay? If you're not promoting the idea of contradiction, if you're not quickly forgiving people for contradiction, if you're not thinking in terms of contradiction being okay, then something is wrong with you. We're operating within a culture where you can have a man who can come home, or a grown male who can come home, beat on his wife, beat on his children, and then go out making an articulate speech on something, and everybody's applauding him because we're wrongly judging who is who and what they are because it's safe. It's very dangerous to decide that you want to declare Europeans are the enemy of African people, as has been historically proven. It's very scary to continue to operate as if African people should be a nation. It can be very scary. It can be very lonely.
Yes, it's extremely lonely. It's extremely lonely.
To step out there. And most of us are not built for that. And that comes, when we talk about this, we have to go back in time because we have to look at why our children have become so weak in general. Because we've had this progressive intergenerational spoilage that has been going on in our community, following their instructions on how to raise our children. And what this has done, and it's not all of our children, it's just a vast majority of them now.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is, Baba.
What it does to our children is that it makes them weak in terms of being able to stand on what is righteous. It's so much more important for people to approve of you. It's so much more important for you to be popular. Okay, that's not to say that peer pressure is new, but it has increased.
Yes.
So anybody who comes, I give the example of the students. We have them wear, it's mandatory, when the doors are open here for them to wear African attire at least one day out of the week, and that's usually Thursday. So they have to wear African attire, and of course they grumble and grumble and grumble. And of course we don't have anything but African students here, and so I usually get ticked off after a while, and I'll say, okay, you all can go to school. You Africans can go to school, public school. You can wear Arab attire, and nobody's going to say anything. You can wear garment attire. Nobody's going to say anything. You can even come with some Holland wooden shoes and lederhosen from Germany and everything else, and nobody's going to say anything. But walk in there with something that's African on.
Yes, say it, Baba.
And this is all at a subconscious level. So we are the things that we are directed to do lead us away from the possibility, if you will, of being African. We don't want to stand on that. We don't want to have to fight to gain. We would prefer to try to change Urugu smile into something that's real than to have to deal with us building our own. And even when we try to build our own, even those of us who are maybe working to build our own, many of them are ahistorical and they want to ignore what they really need to fight. If you can't defend your wife or your husband or your children or your home or what have you, it's not yours.
Ooh.
It doesn't belong to you unless you've forgotten the history of the West. It doesn't belong to you. So when folks talk about buy black, which I'm 190% about, my first question is about the politics of the person who you're buying from who is black. Okay, what is their politics relative to the empowerment of African people? And this really comes to a head for me when I talk to folks about Black Wall Streets. And the folks who walk around and say, we're going to rebuild Black Wall Street. I say, oh, wonderful. We need our own economy. Of course, before we do that, we have to remember Amos Wilson talking about the economy as a set of relationships before money.
Yes, it is.
We have to, they don't want, they got all these gorgeous plans, but they're acting like who tore down these Black Wall Streets no longer exist. That the European children today are not the Europeans that were doing that damage then. It's like that hasn't changed. They were smiling back then, just like they're smiling now. And we don't want to make that connection. We want to act like we're creating something new. This new world order, this new world, this new human thing is something that we're creating, and we can just ignore everything that's done before, like it's not impacting significantly, if not completely, on what's going on today. The analogy is real simple. The same in terms of people. Our ancestors understood this. We pretend like we don't. The same water that they were using to pour libation in 8,000 BCE is the same water that we're using to pour libation today.
That's
it's
right,
exactly
Baba.
The same water. It hasn't changed. And the same Europeans that are walking around smiling with us, willing to bed us because we're voluntarily being slaves, these same ones are their children, are the children of the children of the children of the children.
Hold on, Baba. Yes. Hold on, Baba. Hold on. Oh my gosh.
It hasn't changed. And in our spoilage, spoiling of our children, we're not preparing them for war. When we talk about the conscious community, one of the most disturbing things for me, any people with sense, folks are going to forgive me for this one, but any people with sense who are self-respecting and believe and honor themselves, they raise their children to be them. They don't raise their children to be turned into something else by somebody else.
That's right.
They raise their children to be them, even though we're trying to pretend that we're Europeans or Americans, whatever that is, like in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean somewhere, Europeans changed into Americans. We are not, we are allowing other people to raise our children. So when I attend events, when there are functions and I see people who are conscious by their attire or by what they say or by, you know, what they think or how they move or what have you, I'm wondering why I'm seeing their children dressed up like Europeans.
Come on, Baba.
I'm wondering why I'm seeing their children able to do anything they want to. Children of age. I'm not just talking about little ones. I'm talking about ones who are middle school, high school. We are allowing our children to choose to be our enemies. And we're supporting that. Nobody else is doing that. Okay, you don't see these Jews in New York doing that, these European Jews doing that. They raise their children, they rear their children to be European Jews, period. Nothing interferes with that. The only people who do that are people who are dispossessed, who believe that they are beaten, who believe that they are vanquished, who believe that they have lost, and that they had better rear their children, raise their children to be what their oppressors want, or they know that the oppressor is going to target them. So it's not their children who they're trying to defend, it's them they're trying to defend. Because they know what their job is, and if they don't do it well, then they're going to lose their ability to do that job.
Baba, let me ask you this. Let me ask you this, Baba. So for a person, a parent, or parents who are African-centered, and I think that's why it's important, Baba, that we form communities. I'm not talking about this virtual online stuff and we just talking online. I'm talking about physical communities, villages. That's why it's important, because the dilemma for parents who are conscious, woke, African-centered, however you want to qualify yourself, what I found out, and I found this out the hard way with my babies and the babies in my family, you pour into them in the household, but when they go out here in the community, their peer group isn't moving the way they're moving, you know, or even if you sending your child to a public school, let's say that you can't homeschool or there's no African-centered school near you and you're sending them there. I noticed, you know, the children come back with habits, you know, and ideas that you know that you didn't expose them to. And so, Baba, how should a parent handle that, Baba? You know, like a parent that's, okay, you don't live around any African-centered folks. You don't live in an African-centered community. You know, what do you do? Because I know that that's the dilemma for a lot of folks. You know, they say they don't live, you know, around African-centered people, children not in African-centered school. So they're trying to pour into that child in the home. But when that child leaves the home, you know, then that child is exposed to culture, ideology, and behaviors and habits that don't align with the home. And now here comes the confusion, Baba.
Absolutely. And that's an extremely difficult and painful situation to be in, where you don't have that kind of community, which of course, for those who have the possibility or the opportunity to do that, they need to develop that, period. There should be no ifs, ands, or buts. That needs to be under our control. No matter how small the community, if you're talking about 2 families, or if you're talking about 20 families, You need to be in a place, in a situation where you can be African, not just pretend, not just know some Black history, some Black first. You need to be in a place, in a position where you can be an African. And of course, everybody, every adult there needs to be in line with that. So I really, honestly, I do feel for folks who do not have that, that possibility. But you do the best that you can. It's like with any other situation involving being African and being within enemy territory. You have to do the best that you can with what you have. Even in a community like that, you can't keep children who see this billboard or happen to catch this, ad on TV or watch this show. You can't. I've seen that too many times. I've seen a whole collection of children who were raised from birth in quote unquote centered or conscious families, and as soon as they were old enough to leave home, they ran as fast as they could.
I've seen it, Baba.
I've seen it too many times. Sort of like the no pun, but the preacher's kid, who everybody applauded, but they were doing all the bad stuff in the church among the children. They were able to get away with it.
I was.
So you have these children who know this stuff, who know these books, who've been around the scholars, who've watched the videos, who've been around the right teachers, but they still see that as glitter because they see discipline. That's part of the problem that we have. We're not practicing the discipline that's the model for them, and we're not instilling the level of discipline in them where they can look at stuff that doesn't make African sense and walk away from it and be who they're supposed to be. That discipline is incredibly important. So all you can, and it's like this makes, for me, it sounds like a sorry answer, even though to me it's the best one I can give. You do the best you can with what you have wherever you're at.
That's right.
Okay, you can't, I tell folks all the time, don't get upset with yourself because your child, now that they're in high school and you want them to be African, but up until that time you weren't doing that, and you feel bad because you see them going in this direction and you're going this direction, you're going in the opposite direction, you're going toward being African, and you can't change them. Well, you can't blame yourself.
Yes.
Did you do your best with what you had at that time?
That's right.
And if you did, you go on about your business. You continue to set the model. For me, the most intelligent people, the most intelligent children are the ones who study the righteousness, who study the model. You might not see it evidently, right in your face. And that's something that I've heard too many parents, lost and found, parents say, my child's not listening to me. Yeah, your child's listening to you. Yeah, your child is listening to you very much so. And you will see it when they become an adult. That doesn't mean that they won't reject what they were listening to, but they heard what you said.
They heard what you said.
They heard what you said. You have to keep saying it. You have to keep being it. There has to be consistency in that. There can't be that, what you're talking about, that contradiction. They can't be there. If you're going to be wrong, then don't be contradictory. Just be straight up wrong. If you're going to be righteous, then don't be contradictory. Be straight up righteous. Be straight up righteous. We have collected so many habits, and I am not a talker myself. Enia is a talker. I'm not a talker myself. That's pretty much my family. But we have, and I'm saying that because I don't want people to get wrong what I'm getting ready to say. We are wasting so much time debating irrelevance online and engaging in distractive, disconstructive thought and behavior online. When I first started walking in this direction, you hear the critiques of folks who are Negroes and folks who, don't want to be African and blah, blah, blah. And you hear the critiques of, well, if our sons will be better off if these guys who are watching, 4 or 5 hour football games, pre-games, post-game, et cetera, if they took that time and they applied it, to their children, that they would have better children as a result of that. And I'm saying, yeah, that's true, especially when you multiply that times 4 or 5 games a week, blah, blah, blah. I said, but we're doing the same thing. I look online and I see many, and I try not to spend a lot of time online. See many debates that go on for hours and for days and for weeks. And I'm sitting there thinking, if you took all that time and energy and put it into building a school for us, put it into our children, put it into the security of the community, put it into taking care of the lawns of Africans who are infirm, who can't move around, can't do this, they're too old, or they just can't do it. We are critiquing people. It's almost like bullies who will, pick on people because the qualities that they're picking on these other people on, that's them. And they don't want people to look at them and see that they're the punk. Okay, so it's the time and energy that we spend in debate. We have debating down to perfection. We can do that all day long, in and out. And of course, it's very important to be able to discuss, because no one person has all the ideas. No one person has all the answers. But when there's supposed to be, Ba'at talks about balance. Okay. But if you're spending 99% of your time, or of your waking time, of your conversational time, of your work time, arguing with people over whatever, to me, that's wasting time, because the children, that's not feeding the children. Okay, that's not getting the children food. That's not getting anybody homeless housed. That's not keeping that's not keeping the pedophiles away from our children. Talking about pedophiles for 2 hours every day for a year, and the pedophiles are on the roll. Now they can really get to your children because you're so focused on the argument on Facebook or Instagram that you're not watching your children. You're not watching what's around your children. We really need to break away from this. When I was a child, keep going back when I was a child, which I think we need to return to a lot of qualities, because these are watered down qualities from my grandfather's generation, because we were already breaking away.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
When I was coming up, there was great honor in being a quiet man, because it wasn't that you weren't talking to people, it was that you were observing. You were observing what was going on so you could take care of whatever business needed to be taken care of. You didn't want people to know what you were thinking or what you were getting ready to do, so you weren't telling anybody anything, so nobody would know when it happened. You just came and were gone. Whatever needed to be done was done. But it's like we're so engaged in the debate, which is different to me than conversation. We're so engaged in the debate that we're not handling our business in the community. We're not handling the business in our home. We're not handling the business of our common relationships. We're not handling the business of our children. We're so busy
Baba.
Everybody else.
Hold on, Baba. Woo. Oh my gosh, Baba, you said we so busy debating, we not even handling our business in our households, handling our business in our community. And I have to say to you, Baba, that's 100% correct. Baba, what are your thoughts? And family, before I even ask this next question, share this show. If you haven't shared this show, please share this show on your Facebook page, on YouTube, whatever social media platform you use, family. Share this show. Baba's dropping a lot of jewels tonight, and we need to get this information out there, family. I tried to start a watch party in the Dr. John Henry Clarke group, and I think that Facebook has, and this was the second time this happened to me, I have been unable to start a watch party in different groups. But that's okay, guys. That's all right. When they do things like this, it makes me feel like I'm doing the right thing. So I'm not. So family, if you're watching on Facebook, do me a favor, start a watch party in the Dr. John Henry Clarke group or the Dr. Claude Anderson Power Enormous group. Start a watch party so we can get some folks here on the live. I want to take a moment out to salute my French-speaking brothers and sisters in the building. I see you, Hotep Maboti, to you. Thank you so much for tuning in. I see Brother Bunmani's in the building. Brother Kuji Chagali is in the building. Also, my brother Real Truth and Power, who has a talk show, family. He's been bringing on some powerful people. Real Truth and Power. Be sure to subscribe to his channel. This brother has also started a UNIA chapter in Baltimore. And I plan on getting involved, brother. Just give me some time. I got to get some things off of my schedule, but I do plan on joining and being an active member, because how we join organizations, people join and then you're not active. And so when you join these organizations, we gotta be active. So Baba, let me ask you a question.
Mm-hmm.
What were your thoughts about people going back and forth online, debating over Biden and Trump? What were your thoughts about that? Because since the I know the election is coming up on November the third. The president of my university, Morgan, he shut down the school. There's no classes on Tuesday. He's like, he wants everybody to vote, so he's shutting down the school. You hear everyone, it's like vote or die. We gotta die. If Trump gets in office, everybody's gonna die. So they're just scaring black folks in the voting, or even guilting black people in the voting. Your ancestors died for you to go vote, so you better go vote for Biden. And so a lot of these things, these debates are taking place. They're telling us to choose the lesser of two evils. Baba, what are your thoughts on that? Again, and this is drawing a line in the sand: continued oppression or liberation. So, Baba, what do? We participate in the political process? Do we vote for the lesser of two evils? Do we debate one another on Biden or Trump? What do we do, Baba?
Like sovereignty, we've forgotten, many of us forgotten the definition of politics. And politics is essentially the creation, the organization, the distribution of power. And when I look at whatever candidates may be out there, I'm questioning what they are doing relative to us and our power. So for me, I don't engage in electoral politics, and I haven't for a long time. Part of it has to do with having a felony record, but that's not the key. That's not my thinking. The question for me, and when I look at these folks and when I look at their priorities, they'll pursue the interests of their folks, but they're not pursuing the interests of ours. My mother told me, and she was an avid voter. She said that your ancestors didn't vote for you to have the right to vote. They fought for you to have the right to choose whether you wanted to vote or not. And that was to give you the power so that you would have the ability to choose. But I'm not going to support anybody who isn't benefiting us, who isn't directly benefiting us, period. To me, it's that simple. So when I look at politics, I look at that power as being grassroots. I'm organized around African people organized around what benefits African people. To me, that's politics. Those are the kind of politics I can participate in because I know exactly where it's going. It's like the difference between me going and putting clothes in a homeless guy's hand versus giving them over to Goodwill so they can be shipped someplace else to be given to somebody else. That's time. For me, every second is critical. I'm not going to, and you haven't, I'm not going to put down people who vote that, that's your choice. I don't tell you what to do, but I do know that I haven't seen, I have to compare the candidates for president with people like Harold Washington in Chicago. I have to compare them with other people who have been actual politicians for the people, where their priority were African people. Why would I vote for someone whose main priority is everybody when I know that everybody means that we get a crumb? We get a piece of a crumb, if that, and only to keep us from making too much noise. And I can't remember verbatim exactly what Lena Mataka said when she was talking about the difference between good, evil and not so evil. And I send folks to her all the time to read her commentary because she's very insightful, if you will, in terms of the illogic of choosing between bad and worse. We've heard it many times. It doesn't make a difference. It's both of them evil. If it's evil, the lesser evil is evil. I don't care how you want to calculate it.
Exactly.
If you can show me a politician who works for us, who's in pursuit of African sovereignty and empowerment, I'll find a way to vote. I'll get the people to the polls. I'll drive every day, all day long to the polls to get them there so they can vote. I don't see that anywhere. I don't see that virtually anywhere in the government. I see a lot of I'm looking at the results of what I see. And the results of what I see is that this political order is not about the business of empowering African people. So that time and energy is better spent trying to assist the people in the community get the things that they want, get the power that they want. I'm not. It doesn't impress me. I was always taught that you go where you're needed, you go where the work is, and to me, you have to actually be doing the work, and to me that is politics. that's actually politics. That's actually doing the work. So I'm not a big fan of electoral politics. I can't imagine people like Amos Wilson being a major promoter of it either, because he was about the same thing, building the relationships between the people. The school system has proven that it's not about the business of educating African people. Amos Wilson made a very good point. Our job is not to fight for more of the crumbs. Our job is to bring this monster to heel. To stop. It's not about the business of trying to fight to get this crumb or trying to fight to get that crumb. I have no interest in those crumbs. I have the interest in the liberation of African people and making African people sovereign. And I don't see this system in any way, shape, or fashion of assisting me or mine, in that process.
Hold on, Bob. Hold on 1 sec, Bob. Hold on. I got to do this one more time. Woo! Baba, you on fire. That's why I play that. Do you hear that? Do you hear that when I say fire? Do you hear that when I say fire? So Baba, so I mean, Baba, you dropping a lot of jewels, Baba, and I appreciate everything that I hear there in the chat room. People are loving it. They're saying Baba is speaking the truth. Baba is speaking facts. Baba, let me ask you a question. And I know I only have about 10 minutes left with you. Baba, today is Halloween. All right. Today is Halloween. And I think a part of what do you say, Baba?
Thankfully, no one has come to my door. They know me.
They said we ain't going over the BARUTI'S. We're not knocking on the BARUTI'S door. And so, Baba, I want to ask you this, Baba.
Yes.
Every holiday that comes up, I usually post my purple and yellow book by Isheka Musa Barashango, European Holidays, African, I think it's called African Menticide or African Cultural Menticide. And I usually post that, but brother Marcus Klein beat me to it this year. He just posted it up. So I said, okay, I'm not going to post it. I said, because I'm going to be talking to Baba Baruti later on, and we'll touch on this. And so that's a part. That's also, Baba, I think that discontinuing celebrating European holidays is also drawing a line in the sand, right? It's also drawing a line in the sand. Baba, what are your thoughts on that? I know you're familiar with the ancestor Isheka Musa Barashango's work. Could you briefly speak about the origin of Halloween, where it came from, and why we as African people should not indulge in the celebration of it?
Well, folks need to dig not only Halloween, which of course is what today is, or some people say Halloween, but also Valentine's Day.
Come on, Baba.
Having to do with blood, all the rest of this stuff. There is no holiday that they bring onto the plate that's not a celebration of their death, destruction, and domination. Leonard Jeffries. There's nothing that they do that isn't a celebration of us, and they bring our energy into it. And it is, as someone has said, demonic and evil. It is very demonic and evil. And when we support these ideas without knowing, then we're adding to their power. Barashango, folks need to really get that book, and it's an easy read. Both of them are very easy read.
Yes,
If we want to know simple stuff and to pass this on to our children, and I know I'm not being descriptive relative to your question, but it's all of the holidays and what we need to do, because there always has to be solutions. It's very much unfair to children if you take away their fun, and for them this is fun, even though we know better. For them, this is fun to be able to get out and to play and to act and blah, 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 and get out of school and all the rest of that. So the question is, what are we doing that is instituting celebrations that are not in line with theirs? Okay, so if we're doing a thing after Valentine's Day, well, then Valentine's Day has already been celebrated, all the rest of it. We need to do things beforehand or at different times. We need to create holidays. I remember Eniyak gave the assignment for a number of years ago, where the children had to create an African holiday. They had to tell what it was about. They had to create the holiday. They had to give it a date, and that date had to have a reason. And they created some beautiful things. We need to let our children, okay, if our children are going to be the future and they're going to be the guys, then give them the responsibility. And when you do that, also, one of the wonderful things about that is it gives them the kind of power that they need, that adds to the discipline. that they need in order to deal with this world. I shouldn't see any African children out here doing this. And I've seen people take this date and turn it into an African thing in a beautiful way, because in their own community. So they'll have a day at the school where the children will dress up as African heroes and sheroes, and they will have discussions about, what these individuals are about. To me, that's a good thing. That's a beautiful thing. And it keeps their eyes away from, the insanity out here. But we need to build, part of the problem with this, we wouldn't be having, I would argue, we wouldn't be having this discussion if we expended the time that is required to create our own holidays. So, here at Afrikan, we have created, along with Kalonji Changa, whose idea was initially, African Warrior Men's Day, African Warrior Women's Day. And we're seeing more and more people get involved with that. There should be celebrations around, and there are, but there should be more. There should be so many, we can't even name them all. Celebrations of our Africans being dragged over here as an act of war. We need to have all kinds of celebrations where our children can enjoy themselves. One of the things that really impressed me about traditional African society was they did a thing which preceded by thousands of years the spelling bees, where you would have contests between the children in different communities over proverbs. They would try to, if you would, out-proverb each other in terms of a debate, if you will. Now that's starting to come back a little bit, but we had to look back to our traditions. I remember when Habesha started the Harvest Fest, and that to me was directly related because it was directly in line with the time in which you would have been having Harvest Fest in traditional African society, and you still have in rural African society today. We have to be ingenious. If we're a genius, if we have all this intelligence, if we come from these great thinkers, everyday people, great thinkers, then we should be able to change this around. And the only way to change this around is to start at that level, the level that you're talking about, at the level of family, at the level of individuals.
Absolutely.
Too many of us want to change the world, create an organization of 50,000 people, and it doesn't work. It doesn't work like that. Yurugu is Yurugu, and Yurugu looks for any evidence that there's any kind of organization, and when it's visible, that allows them to come in, and just destroy at will, with the good stuff that we're trying to make. And there's so much more that's related to this discussion now. So you have people who have spent hours over the last week and a half discussing Halloween.
Right. Yeah.
How much of that time? That's not saying that we shouldn't put a post out, snatch a couple of pages from Baba Bear Shango and post it up there, and then let it go, and maybe if somebody asks for explanation, then give them explanation. But how much of that time could have been put into educating some children about our historical figures who are worthy of knowing? Stop playing costumes and start being real. Talk about real people, and start establishing ways so that we'll know each other. That allows them to express their creative talent. So what do we have that we put out on our stoop, that we put out on our steps on certain African holidays? So when people who know who they are drive by, they recognize the houses that they are. Not just Benderas, the red, black, and green, but other things that the children can do. They need projects so they can identify with who they are. That's extremely important.
Absolutely. And I want to say this, Baba. Anthony T. Browder, Baba Tony Browder, in his book From the Browder File, which I read almost 20 years ago, but he talked about that European holidays, and he was saying how his daughter, who's now in her 30s, at the time that he wrote the book, I believe she was maybe, pre-teens. And he said that she wanted to, indulge. She wanted to celebrate Halloween, right? Because all her friends and people were going, and he was saying the same thing that you just articulated. He was saying that, instead of dressing up like this, won't you dress up as one of the African queens? And we can study. So he said the exact same thing you said. But Baba, let me ask you a question. What about Kwanzaa? What are your thoughts on Kwanzaa? Because it's this riff I noticed that whenever Kwanzaa comes around, people will say, oh, I don't celebrate Kwanzaa. It's not an indigenous African holiday, or I don't celebrate it because I've heard things about what the founder did back in the day, and the founder was accused or charged of X, Y, and Z. So I don't celebrate it. So what are your thoughts about, African-centered people celebrating Kwanzaa or wanting to celebrate Kwanzaa?
Well, I don't have a problem with them celebrating. They need to know about Karenga's record. They need to know that it's not an indigenous holiday like Henry Clark brought to our attention many, many times. But I would suggest Mama Marimba got really, really ticked off about it, if you will. And her problem wasn't with the celebration, because we need to celebrate ourselves. We need to celebrate ourselves. We need to celebrate our traditions. And there isn't really any other thing that's been set up for us to do that. We need to stop bringing other people in here and try to turn this into a quote unquote American holiday. But what she did was she took the principles of Kwanzaa and she wrote them out as revolutionary, nation building, sovereignty seeking principles. And I post that every year.
Great, excellent.
Every year on my post. So if people want to do that, here at this house, we have 3 candles that we burn, red, black, and green candle. We talk about the importance of each principle, and then we go about our business because that's what we do all year long anyway. But the principles, the ideas behind it, which is part of the problem, we just celebrate stuff and don't know. If you read Mama Marimba's principles, Mama Marimba's a breakdown of what those terms, what those concepts mean, revolutionary, African-centered, sovereignty-seeking terms, then it's going to change your whole approach to it. I'm not saying, put Karenga up on some pedestal somewhere. I'm not going to. I'm not saying say that Kwanzaa is something that came from traditional African society. But as John Henry Clark said, there's nothing new to what he did. It's not his holiday. It is the principles. These principles are African to the core. They precede the Kwanzaa celebration of Kwanzaa here by thousands and thousands and thousands of years. So if that'll allow people to become acquainted with those principles, I'm all for it, because somebody somewhere had no idea. Somebody somewhere had, no notion whatsoever about African principles, about the principles of Ma'at, which are connected to that. And this might have acquainted them to that. Just like your program here, somebody's probably listening to this program who had no idea about, what I'm going to talk about or what you're going to talk about. And that may have
spark some interest, or some hunger, some thirst, to learn more.
Yes.
All right.
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah. So Baba, I know I have about 2 minutes with you left. I'm looking at the chat and I see Brother Kwesi, Kim Ma'at and Panza. Brother Mpanza is in the building. He was the brother. He said, I know that he was there when I rescheduled this. And he was like, what happened? I think he inboxed me and he was like, sis, what happened? And I was like, oh, we had to reschedule it because I had some internet issues. And he said, okay. And so when I reposted the show and I said, I'm gonna have Baba back on such and such date underneath the post, he said, I'm looking forward to this. So Baba, in closing, if you, and I'm asking a question that came directly from Brother Mpanza, okay, and actually his wife just started a podcast that is centered around, the Black family, promoting the Black family. And so I definitely I'm waiting for her to get up and running, but I know she's in the process of starting that. So family, make sure that you holler at Brother Mpanza on Facebook, Kwesi Ma'at Mpanza. Okay, make sure you holler at him, his wife, beautiful couple, African-centered folks, Baba Baruti, beautiful couple. But he asked a question. He said, if Baba Mwalimu Baruti could give a 10-point plan on what we must be doing with our time and energy as Africans in the U.S., what would that list look like? I think that was a phenomenal question, Baba, to end with. A 10-point plan. What do we need to do first, Baba? Second, third? If you had to think of it, Baba, what would you think of it? What would you say, Baba?
What I'm going to do is I'm going to get on my PowerPoint tonight and I'm going to put together a meme and I'll post those 10 points tomorrow morning.
Brother Mpanza, did you hear him? He said he's going to put it together and post it. And family, as soon as he posted What I'm going to do is share it on, I know on YouTube, they have a community tab where you can post video links and pictures. And so I'll take what Baba posted and I'll post it on my Facebook page and also the YouTube community tab. And what I'm also going to do, Baba, is in the description of this video underneath, I'm going to post, of course, your website, but underneath that, post a 10-point plan. All right.
Okay, good. And
all right.
If I can find them, which I should be able to find them, there are a number of other, lists that may be beneficial. If I can't find them tomorrow, then I'll keep an eye out for them and post them as soon as I come across them.
I appreciate it, Bob. And I see Sister Melissa ask, she said, can you, Doc, or someone put the name of the book in the chat? So the name of the book, and I could drop the link in the chat really quickly. I don't want you to get it from Amazon, okay? Because you can go to a Black store. Matter of fact, Everyone's Place.
Yes.
Everyone's Place will ship it to you, okay? Everyone's Place will ship you the book, guys. So wherever you are, you don't have to go to Amazon and keep making the guy rich. What's his name? I forgot the guy's name.
Brother Nati needs to be made known. Brother Nati.
Yes, Brother Nati and his beautiful wife, Mama Tabia. So Queen, I put the first link. All right. So that's the first book. It's a yellow book, okay, entitled African People and European Holidays, Volume 1, A Mental Genocide. All right. And a matter of fact, this is what I'll do. I'll share my screen. Okay. I'll share my screen so that you can see what I'm looking at. Baba, can you see it?
Yes, I can.
Okay, so it's called African People and European Holidays, Volume 1. Okay, a mental genocide. All right. He also has another one, a purple book. Okay, this is Volume 2. And again, family, don't get this stuff from Amazon. Just go to Google. Type in Everyone's Place. Right here, Everyone's Place, African Cultural Center. Here it is right here, family. Okay, the phone number is 410-728-0877. It's owned by a beautiful African-centered couple, Baba Nati and Mama Tabia. Call them and they will ship you the book no matter where you are. They ship around the world. They ship locally, internationally, domestic. They ship around the world, family. Okay. Yeah. And so be sure, family, to check them out. All right. So I'm gonna stop sharing my screen. Baba, so thank you so much. And hold up, before I let you go, Baba, I gotta give it up for you. I gotta drop a bomb for you, Baba. Hold on. Gotta drop a bomb for you. Fire, 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 fire.
You're getting good at this.
Baba, thank you so much. Thank you so much for coming on the platform. I appreciate, your time, your wisdom, your energy. So I give thanks for you. I give thanks for Mama for giving us to you, for an hour, because you could be with your family, your grandkids, your children, but you took an hour out of your life, an hour out of your time to be with us tonight. And I give thanks for that, Baba. Thank you so much for everything. Baba, do you have any closing words before you go, Baba?
It's an honor and privilege to be here. It's an honor to be invited by those people who think like warriors. Okay, I'm not talking to anybody else. So I appreciate it. People need to applaud you for the work that you're doing, because this is very, as we said before, this is scary work.
Yes.
And
yes,
it takes
Baba.
Some heroes and sheroes to get this done. So people ought to be supporting what you're doing as well. No ifs, no ands, no buts. And I'm honored to be here. I saw names going by that I know.
Yes.
So I know that we're in the right space, and looking forward to the next time.
Absolutely, Baba. Thank you so much for coming on the platform. Family, thank you so much for being with us. And check me. I won't be going live next weekend, okay? Because again, on November the 7th, they're having a memorial service for Nana Dr. Patricia Newton at Joseph Brown Funeral Home right here in Baltimore. That's invitation only, family. So don't think you can just pop up there, okay? Because it's invite only. So I'll be going there on the 6th, and then on the 7th, we're having the 40-day ascension ceremony for her. So family, I won't be live at all next weekend. However, I will be live on November the 14th. I'm gonna see who's coming up, Bob. I don't even know We'll be live on the 14th. I have Dr. William Darity, Dr. William Sandy Darity coming on to talk about economics and reparations. And then the week after that, I have Baba Mku coming on to talk about the importance of critical thinking. The week after that, hopefully I'll have Dr. Gina Page, who is the co-founder of African Ancestry. She'll be on November the 21st. So family, I got a lot of heavy hitters set up for the month of November. So join me here on the show. Peace and Black Power.
Let's combat and fight back with maltracks. War the minds, they want control of the masses. And Common Core, they dumb us down in the classes. Without knowledge, we can't gain access. Build with the elders, take notes and write classes. We keep whining on the block, how it's gonna stop? Let's start supporting our own, make their supply drop. We buy stocks, then we buy blocks. Cause we know the truth and we tuned in to Dr. Maya.